follows an extract from my book Fête Fatale, available from Amazon. Chapter 14, Part 1. Beth was sitting in Emma's lounge as Primrose played with her teddy bear. We've spent so much time and attention looking out for Jean and trying to figure out about John that I'm afraid that we've ignored what's under our nose. Hetty has just told me that towards the end of term Toby has been suffering from taunts from his schoolmates. They've been picking on him because nobody has ever seen his dad, and only his mum walks him to and from school, said Emma. As if it isn't bad enough having the adults of the village wondering about the mysterious wedding ring, it now seems that the children aren't deaf to their parents' gossip either. I bet the little lad can't even answer the questions himself, or is wise enough not to, said Beth. I think that it's really crass. It's the adults who are at fault. The children are just copying what they see and hear, as if people haven't got enough worries of their own without needing to mull over other folks' troubles. There's not a lot we can do about it during the holidays. We'll just have to keep an eye on Henrietta and Toby. Meanwhile, I'll have a think about it. We need to meet up at the Blue Willow as soon as we can. Can you arrange it with Hetty? We'll save what we've got to discuss until then, rather than go over everything twice. I'm not sure what you'll make of our findings, but we definitely need to put our heads together. In his office at Police HQ, Detective Chief Inspector James had consumed several cups of strong black coffee in the process of cross-referencing the names found in the correspondence on John Barlow's laptop against the police database system. The subject matter of John's emails had guided him to a certain point, and then, not being proud, he allowed a Google search to play a part in helping to piece together an idea of what was going on. Although it looks as though John hadn't committed himself at the point of the last email contact, it was evident that he had dipped his toes into very turbulent waters and would soon be past the point of no return if he hadn't already crossed that line. It was certainly very worrying, and it seemed quite unreal when you connected the names that he had just researched with the quiet village life of Mossleigh and the gentle figure of John Barlow. He logged out of all of the systems on his screen and unplugged the hard drive surreptitiously accessed by Carlton Pepper. Draining the dregs of his coffee cup, he grimaced at the bitterness of the cold coffee and of the situation in general. His thoughts were interrupted by a knock on the door and the entrance of Forbes. Ah, Forbes, how good of you to grace me with your illustrious presence. Forbes raised his eyebrows and looked up at the ceiling. I do hope that you've come with more in mind than merely brightening my day with your boyish good looks. Very funny, sir. I know that you're in a tight place with the Mossleigh case, and so I thought I'd give you the heads up on our first round of results. It's all unofficial, of course, until we've run all the checks and counter tests. Off the record, there's little doubt that we're wrong, though. We'll have more to say next week, but I thought you'd want to know as soon as possible. Yes, I won't quote you until you give me the official say-so. Take a seat and do tell all. Forbes sat opposite to James, and casting an inward glance, he formulated his thoughts. Before he began his discourse, he began with a series of questions. Just to clarify, did the chap have a known heart condition, and did he suffer with diabetes? No and yes. Do go on. Rather than unload a stream of abstract jargon, I'll uncharacteristically put my neck on the line and interpret the lab findings. We've only got partial results yet, but for what it's worth, here goes. It would appear that the poor chap died of a heart attack as a result of an insulin spike. The spike is the grey area in this case, as it can occur from many and varied stimuli. In this case, it was a direct result of the presence of a form of digitoxin. The drug digitoxin contains cardiac glycosides, and the derivative digitoxin can produce an insulin release. Also, in the presence of glucose, digitoxin can produce an insulin spike. As such, the cause of death can accurately be termed a myocardial infarction as a result of diabetes mellitus type 2. This seems straightforward enough, but if you say that the chap wasn't known to have a heart problem, then there is no explanation for the presence of digitoxin in any form. We can pin down the strain of the drug more specifically with more tests, but I thought that this in itself was enough for now and better than nothing. That's very interesting, Forbes. What else can you tell me? The matter of the insulin spike could easily have been explained by diabetes, and superficially this would have been the case if the presence of digitoxin wasn't discovered. The tricky part here is to define the quantity of each, and I think that will be vitally important. Various forms are absorbed at different rates in the gastrointestinal tract, and for a diabetic sufferer, only a small amount of digitoxin could prove fatal, as the resultant insulin spike would be more pronounced than for a non-diabetic. You'd need to talk to the bloke's GP to get a better idea about that. In short, the presence of digitoxin, in whatever form, needs explaining. I'm not sure that I can imagine how that could happen by accident, though there have been cases with muddled tablet bottles or confusion on similar themes. Forbes, I owe you. Don't worry, your secret is safe with me. I'll make sure that nobody in the force ever gets to hear it that the forensics department can be helpful or imaginative. Next time I need someone to put their foot down with all the lights flashing, I'll make sure the call comes to you. Oh, I do that anyway, as well you know. But it'd be nice to be official about it. When we whizzed down to Mossleigh, we were pretty thorough over this chap, not being keen to tear ourselves away from the idyllic scenery. I think there might be bits of incidental material which we could look at if needed, but I guess that this is the main thrust. It's certainly enough to be getting along with. I know that you've got other things on the go, but if you can keep going with this, I think I'll be coming back for more. See what you can find for me. This case has taken some surprising turns, and the concept of quiet village life is tainted forever for me now. I'll never believe the facade of a rural idyll again. Forbes raised his eyebrows. I'll be interested to hear your news. We'll keep this one going then, and we'll keep each other posted. James liked Forbes. He had just the right mix of professional standing and kind humanity. The way he referred to the subject of his gruesome findings in terms of the chap or the bloke was reassuring. Despite the unthinkable methods which were necessary in his job, he had never referred to the body as long as James had known him. The additional bonus was that Forbes could stretch to some creative thinking along with precise scientific method. He liked him a lot. As Forbes left the office, James picked up the telephone and called Dr. Wainwright, judging him to be between surgery and house visits at this time. This being the case, the doctor's secretary put his call straight through. "James, how good to hear from you. How's it going?" asked Wainwright. "I'm finding myself caught deeper and deeper in a complex web. I feel like I'm lost in a labyrinth. I must be a magnet for trouble, because as soon as I'd heard about John's death when I telephoned Beth that night, I must have smelled trouble from afar. Certainly nothing is as it first seemed." "Ah, it's like that then, is it?" "This morning has brought me some bizarre and puzzling information. I'd like to talk with you about it all. We could meet at Mossleigh police station, as I need Maddox in on our little chat, but I don't feel inclined to rough it there. The local inspector doesn't seem inclined to stick her nose in, and for that I'm grateful. How would it suit you to set up a temporary case room in Beth's kitchen again? I rather fancy that she'll have some bits of information to throw into the mix herself too, if I'm not mistaken. She'll have got her underground network busy, I'm sure. I can pop over to the police station and give a polite update to Inspector Buckley afterwards. She'll appreciate the formality and want nothing more, sensible woman." "Sounds good to me. If you're happy to keep it that way, you're the boss." Beth and Drew are used to it by now. They know to be discreet. You need to think of them as a type of undercover officer. If Beth ever went pro, we'd all have to look to our laurels. Do you mind losing part of your Sunday? That way we won't interrupt your surgery hours. Don't worry about that. It suits me fine. For the full book of Fête Fatale, available in paperback or as an ebook, follow the link in the cards in the description box or find details on my website at sharonbill.com. Thanks for listening.